welcome to the deep dive. You've shared a really interesting set of articles and industry insights focused on procurement equipment. And honestly, it's a world most of us probably don't think about much until something goes wrong.
That's usually how it works, isn't it?
Yeah. So our mission today is to unpack the real sticking points in getting the right gear and maybe explore how a little foresight, a bit of planning can make a huge difference in efficiency.
Exactly. We're not here to get bogged down in, overly technical jargon,
Right.
but to really understand the core challenges. What are the common sources of friction? What are some of the smarter approaches for navigating them?
Sure.
Think of it as understanding the engine room, maybe, of how organizations get what they need to function.
I like that analogy. Okay, let's unpack this. When you first hear procurement equipment, it might sound, I don't know, straightforward, but the sources you sent paint a very different picture.
Oh,
There's a surprisingly long list of potential headaches, really, that can impact how smoothly things run and, ultimately, the bottom line. Where do you think we should begin?
well, I think a logical starting point is often the source of the equipment itself, the suppliers.
Okay.
The material you provided highlights some pretty significant risks associated with them. It's not always easy finding dependable partners.
Yeah.
And the potential for receiving, say, substandard equipment or experiencing those dreaded delivery delays, it's a real concern.
Yeah, finding reliable suppliers isn't just a quick search online, is it?
No, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
It often involves navigating sort of opaque markets and trying to assess claims that aren't always verified. A thorough investigation is crucial.
Right, and the consequences can be pretty serious, can't they? It's more than just a minor inconvenience if a key piece of kit is faulty or just doesn't show up.
Absolutely.
Some sources even touched on the risk of, well, outright fraud.
Precisely. And it's not a one-time thing either. You need to continuously assess how your suppliers are performing.
Right, an ongoing process.
Yeah, beyond just picking them, you need to make sure they keep meeting your expectations. Quality, reliability, even their own operational practices.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like an ongoing partnership, really.
It should be.
Then there are the delivery issues themselves. I mean, feels like we've all experienced some kind of delay or mix-up at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Late deliveries, incorrect orders, goods damaged in transit. These are all too common.
And they can cause significant disruptions.
Huge disruptions. Production schedules get thrown off. Projects run over budget.
And then you're scrambling.
Exactly. Then there's the added pressure and the expense of trying to expedite shipping to recover lost time. And ultimately, as one source pointed out, this hits your customer satisfaction levels.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's not just external factors causing these problems, is it? Several articles mentioned internal issues, especially around the technology companies are using.
Fair.
Or maybe not using effectively.
Yes, what's fascinating here is how relying on outdated systems,
Yeah.
legacy ERPs, maybe even just a lot of spreadsheets.
Oh, spreadsheets.
Right, or sticking to very manual processes can really hold back the procurement function. Inaccurate data becomes common. The approval process can feel like wading through mud.
Yeah.
And just keeping track of orders and inventory becomes, well, kind of a guessing game.
And ERP, just for clarity, that's enterprise resource planning, right? Those big integrated systems.
That's right. The software that's supposed to manage all the different business processes together.
Okay. So it sounds like it's difficult to even get a clear picture of what's needed, let alone get it efficiently. That inability to accurately forecast needs or streamline procurement cycles must be a major drain.
It really is. It shifts the whole operation from being proactive to constantly reacting, just reacting to shortages or sudden needs. And this directly contributes to another challenge highlighted in the sources. Those really long procurement cycles.
Oh, the bureaucracy. Lengthy approval processes, especially when multiple departments need to sign off. Maybe there's tons of paperwork involved.
Yep.
So like a recipe for delays.
That's exactly right. And the more specialized or expensive the equipment, the more people might need to be involved. Without streamlined digital workflows, those timelines can really stretch out, sometimes unnecessarily, impacting project deadlines and just general efficiency.
And of course, all these issues hit the finances. Keeping costs under control seems to be a constant battle.
Definitely. The sources really emphasize how easily expenses can escalate. Unexpected costs for things like delivery, installation, or those often overlooked customization fees.
Ah, yes, the hidden costs.
Exactly. They can quickly eat into budgets and really affect the bottom line, profitability.
You've got the whole area of making sure everything is Well, legally sound, like regulatory compliance sounds incredibly complex.
It is, ensuring all equipment meets the necessary legal standards, licensing requirements, warranty stipulations. It's a significant task.
I bet.
Overlooking even a seemingly minor detail can lead to penalties, legal issues, sometimes even having to halt operations entirely.
Wow. And if the data you're working with isn't reliable, keeping track of all that compliance stuff must be a nightmare. Data inaccuracy seems to pop up again and again.
Precisely. When information is entered manually and different departments use systems that don't talk to each other, well, errors are almost inevitable.
Right.
This then ripples out, causing problems with inventory.
Mm.
Maybe you have too much of one thing, not enough of another, and ultimately leads to poor decision-making across the board.
Okay, here's one that I found particularly interesting: dark purchasing. It sounds a bit cloak and dagger.
It does sound dramatic, doesn't it? But really, it simply refers to purchases, goods or services made by employees without going through the proper channels.
Ah, okay, so like someone just buying something on a company card because it's quicker.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And while it might seem like a fast solution at the time, it can inflate costs, really undermine transparency, and create significant risks around compliance and quality control.
I can see that. And in any process involving multiple parties, clear communication is obviously vital. It sounds like communication breakdowns between procurement, internal teams, suppliers are pretty common too.
Absolutely. Misunderstandings, mistakes that come from poor communication, they can lead to a whole range of problems. Ordering the wrong specs, delays in sorting out issues, hitting project timelines.
It all connects back. We also can't ignore the bigger picture, can we? Those external factors. Supply chain disruptions feel like they've become much more prominent lately.
Very much so. External events like geopolitical instability, natural disasters, even just disruptions in transport networks can have a huge impact.
Causing delays, driving up costs.
Exactly. Often unexpectedly, which makes planning even harder.
And then there's the ongoing task of just managing all the agreements, contract management. That sounds like a full-time job in itself for some people.
Oh, it is a significant undertaking, definitely. Keeping track of multiple supplier contracts, ensuring everyone's complying with the terms, managing them effectively, it's crucial.
And if you don't,
Well, without proper oversight, you run the risk of unclear terms, missed deadlines, potential disputes. Basically, inefficiencies in your operation.
right. Okay. Finally, the sources touch on something that feels increasingly important: sustainability and ethical sourcing. It's not just about the cheapest option anymore, is it?
No, not at all. There's a growing pressure and expectation to source equipment in an environmentally responsible way
Mm-hmm.
and to ensure suppliers stick to ethical labor standards. Balancing these important considerations with the constant need for cost effectiveness. That's a significant challenge for many organizations today.
Okay, wow. So that's a pretty comprehensive list of potential challenges. It sounds like navigating equipment procurement is a real balancing act.
It certainly is.
So considering all these potential pitfalls, what's a key strategy that really stands out in the sources for, staying on course?
The most consistently emphasized strategy, I'd say, in the material you provided is undoubtedly the critical role of supplier diversification.
Okay, that makes sense intuitively. Don't put all
Yeah.
your eggs in one basket. But let's dig a little deeper into why diversifying suppliers is so vital, especially thinking about those delivery and supply chain risks we just talked about.
Well, the most immediate advantage is just a significant reduction in risk and greater overall resilience.
Right.
As several sources point out, relying on a single supplier, or even suppliers concentrated in just one geographic area, makes a company very vulnerable, extremely vulnerable to unexpected disruptions.
Like what kind of disruptions?
Oh, think about natural disasters, political instability, sudden changes in trade regulations, the list goes on.
Okay.
Supplier diversification spreads that risk.
Mm.
So if one supplier or region gets hit, you have other options to keep things moving. It's not just about backups. It's really a strategic lever for resilience.
So it's like having multiple safety nets in place. If one fails, others can catch you.
Exactly. And this also gives you much greater flexibility. It allows for a faster response when circumstances change.
How so?
Well, a diverse supplier network means you can adapt more quickly to shifts in the market, changes in demand, or those, inevitable interruptions in the supply chain.
Mm.
Having multiple sources lets you shift orders around, maybe adjust production plans as needed, minimizing any downtime.
That ability to pivot quickly must be a huge competitive advantage.
Absolutely. And let's not overlook the geopolitical and economic factors either. Things like tariffs, regulatory changes, currency fluctuations, they can hit supply chains fast.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of that.
Companies with a diverse supplier base are just in a much better position to adjust their strategies. They can shift sourcing to less affected regions, maybe negotiate more favorable terms. It lessens the impact.
So it provides a kind of built-in hedge against global instability, it sounds like.
Precisely. And what's more, having multiple suppliers naturally encourages healthy competition.
Ah, right. Drives down prices.
It can, yeah. Or at least lead to more favorable contract terms. It stops you being overly reliant on one supplier's pricing and lets you maybe take advantage of better deals elsewhere.
Competition is usually good for the buyer, right?
Generally, yes. And beyond just cost, diversification can also be a driver for innovation. It can provide access to new markets, too.
How does that work?
Well, working with a wider range of suppliers exposes you to different technologies, different processes, maybe market opportunities you wouldn't see with just one or two partners.
Interesting.
This can lead to improvements in product quality, potentially open doors to new or emerging markets.
So it's not just about avoiding problems, it can actually help you move forward proactively.
Absolutely. And finally, diversification plays a crucial role in achieving compliance and promoting sustainability.
Okay, how so?
It allows companies to choose to source from regions and suppliers that align better with their regulatory needs or their ethical standards.
Hmm.
This reduces the risk of non-compliance and supports those increasingly important initiatives around ethical sourcing.
Okay, so it sounds like a really comprehensive strategy, really, with benefits across multiple areas. Now, shifting gears a bit, the sources also provide a really detailed look at the various people involved in making all this procurement happen. It's definitely not just one person placing orders, is it?
Not at all. Not in most places, anyway. What's really interesting is the sheer variety of roles within this field. Procurement equipment.
Yeah.
The sources outline positions at, well, every level, from entry level right up to senior leadership. And they also highlight specialized roles for specific industries and requirements.
It's quite an extensive list. Let's try to break it down a little. What are some of the key roles we see at the sort of executive and strategic levels?
Right at the top, you'll often find the Chief Procurement Officer, the CPO. They're setting the overall global strategy, thinking about diversification, cost optimization, the big picture.
Okay.
Then you have directors of procurement, maybe managing overarching policies, budgets for significant projects. Heads of category management focus on strategies for specific types of equipment.
Right, like IT versus heavy machinery.
Exactly. Balancing cost, quality, performance for that category. And global sourcing directors concentrate on building and managing those international supplier networks, mitigating global risks.
So these are the people focused on the big picture, the long-term plan. What about the operational and managerial roles, the folks executing these strategies day to day?
Yeah, in these roles, you'll find procurement managers who lead the actual purchasing processes day in, day out, strategic sourcing managers identifying and vetting key suppliers, category managers specializing in particular equipment types, like we just mentioned.
Okay.
We also see roles like procurement equipment managers, maybe focused on a specific sector like renewable energy, capital equipment procurement specialists handling those really high-value assets, ensuring compliance, and fleet procurement managers overseeing vehicles, transport equipment, thinking about life cycle costs, sustainability there too.
It's really becoming clear how specialized this field can get. Then there are the more technical and specialized roles, right?
Yes, positions that require specific technical know-how. You have e-procurement specialists who implement and manage the digital tools.
The software side.
Right. Procurement technical specialists who evaluate the technical aspects of the equipment itself, vital in industries like, say, nuclear or large-scale construction. Equipment planning engineers working closely with technical teams to define the requirements in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Sustainable procurement officers focusing specifically on the ethical and environmental side. And contract administrators handling all the legal details of supplier agreements.
And I imagine there's a huge amount of data analysis and just general support needed behind the scenes as well.
Absolutely essential. You have procurement analysts digging into spending data, looking for trends, cost control analysts tracking expenses against budget, inventory coordinators managing stock levels, what you have, what you need,
Right.
vendor management specialists monitoring how suppliers are actually performing against their contracts, and materials procurement officers sourcing the raw materials and components needed for the equipment.
Even at the entry level, it sounds like there are pretty defined roles and responsibilities.
Definitely. You'll find purchasing agents executing the purchase orders, procurement assistants providing crucial admin support, buyers maybe focusing on more standardized, off-the-shelf equipment,
Okay.
logistics coordinators managing the transport and delivery, and requisitions clerks who process those initial requests for purchases coming in from different departments.
And it's fascinating to see how these roles become even more specialized when you look at specific industries. The sources gave some great examples.
Exactly. You have healthcare capital equipment planners navigating really complex regulations, construction procurement managers dealing with sourcing heavy machinery, tight project timelines, renewable energy equipment specialists focusing on life cycle analysis for sustainable tech,
Hmm.
oil and gas procurement engineers operating in high-risk environments with super strict safety rules, and aerospace procurement consultants dealing with critical safety certifications and regulations. It's highly specialized.
It really underscores that procurement isn't just some generic function. It requires deep, specific expertise depending on the industry.
Absolutely.
And the sources even mention some emerging and sort of hybrid roles, which shows how the field is adapting, I guess.
Yeah, that was interesting. What's particularly noteworthy are the newer roles like digital procurement transformation leads people focused on bringing in AI, blockchain,
Wow.
risk management procurement officers specifically addressing supply chain vulnerabilities for critical equipment, supplier diversity coordinators working to promote inclusivity in the supply base, circular economy procurement specialists focusing on reuse and recycling initiatives.
That's a big one now.
It is. And procurement compliance auditors ensuring everyone's adhering to constantly evolving regulations like ITAR or GDPR.
It really highlights the increasing importance of embedding things like sustainability, digital innovation, and resilience against risk right into procurement strategies.
Definitely. The role is evolving fast.
Now, to bring this down to maybe a more relatable level, the sources also give us a glimpse into what procurement looks like in a smaller company. It's likely quite different from these large, highly specialized teams we've been talking about, isn't it?
Oh, it's a very different picture indeed. In a small company, procurement often involves a lot of juggling,
I can imagine.
where strategic thinking, supplier management, the day-to-day tasks, it's all handled by a much smaller team, sometimes just one or two people.
So what might a typical day look like for someone doing procurement in a small company? How does it start?
Well, the morning often starts with strategic prioritization or trying to. Reviewing emails, new purchase requests, checking those critical delivery updates first thing.
Right.
Inventory assessment is usually key, but often managed using more basic ERP systems or, as we mentioned, sometimes just spreadsheets.
Still with the spreadsheets.
Often, yeah. Team coordination is vital, even if it's just two people, and roles tend to be very flexible. People wear multiple hats. Market analysis gets squeezed in, keeping an eye on price fluctuations, maybe exploring alternative suppliers, often using free or low-cost online tools.
So it sounds like a lot of different hats being worn right from the start.
Yeah.
What about the middle of the day?
Midday often revolves around direct supplier interaction, negotiating terms, trying to resolve any issues that have cropped up, and really trying to build those personal relationships, which are often key in smaller setups.
Mhm.
Placing orders is still a meticulous process, making sure documentation is accurate, compliant. And risk mitigation is a constant background thought, always thinking about potential delays, what the backup plan is.
It sounds like a lot of proactive problem solving, but maybe on a smaller, more immediate scale.
Yeah.
What fills the afternoon typically?
The afternoon often involves managing the logistics, coordinating deliveries, inspecting goods when they arrive, dealing with any discrepancies right away. Collaboration with internal stakeholders is also crucial, making sure purchasing aligns with what production needs, what finance has budgeted, maybe what sales has promised. And even in small companies, compliance with basic regulatory and ethical standards is still important.
And as the workday starts to wind down, what happens then?
The late afternoon is usually dedicated to the admin tasks, updating records, maybe logging supplier performance, often informally, notes in a file perhaps, archiving contracts. Unfortunately, manual data entry is often still quite common here, which, as we know, can introduce errors. And then, if there's time left, maybe some strategic planning, looking at spending patterns, identifying potential cost savings, prioritizing for the next day.
It sounds incredibly demanding for a small team. The sources even touched on some of the unique challenges they faced, didn't they?
Yes, definitely. Multitasking overload is a huge one. Team members balancing both strategic thinking and the urgent tactical work, it can lead to stress. Resource limitations are also a major factor. restricted access to advanced tools, often forcing reliance on those manual processes we talked about.
Right.
Small businesses can also face a power imbalance with larger suppliers. Sometimes they just have to accept less favorable terms. And unfortunately, a significant amount of time can end up being spent just reacting to immediate problems, fighting fires, rather than proactively optimizing their overall procurement processes.
It really highlights the adaptability and, I guess, resilience required in smaller procurement teams. It sounds like those personal relationships with suppliers and a willingness to adopt even simple process improvements are really key.
They are essential.
And that eventually, as they grow, investing in more automated systems becomes, well, pretty much unavoidable.
Absolutely. It's a testament to their agility, for sure, but also a reminder that strategic investment in procurement capabilities is crucial for sustainable growth, no matter the company size.
So to recap then, we've really dug deep into the world of procurement equipment today.
We have.
We've explored the many challenges, supplier risks, tech limitations, all sorts. We've emphasized the vital role of proactive strategies, especially supplier diversification.
Mm-hmm.
We've also examined the really diverse array of roles involved in this field and gained, I think, a valuable insight into the day-to-day realities of procurement in a smaller business context.
And when we look at the bigger picture, it becomes really clear that effective equipment procurement is far from just some back office function, right?
Not at all.
It has significant, really far-reaching consequences throughout any organization. It impacts everything from operational efficiency and project timelines to cost management and ultimately customer satisfaction.
So here's a final thought maybe for you, the listener, to consider.
Yeah.
Think about the ripple effects of efficient or indeed inefficient equipment procurement in your own work or the organizations you encounter.
Mm-hmm.
What small change, maybe inspired by some of these insights, could potentially lead to a noticeable improvement? And what questions has this deep dive sparked for you about the often unseen systems and processes that underpin the equipment we all rely on every single day?
It's definitely something we're thinking about.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.